The focus of our webcast today is getting started with Power BI. We are very excited to have Patrick Voital, our in-house Power BI specialist, presenting for us today. Power BI lets you see your data in new ways. The platform gives you the opportunity to explore your data in reports that are visually appealing. It is built to help you search your data sets for hidden insights, and it can connect to multiple data sources, not just Dynamics 365. To give you more information and exciting details of the Power BI platform, I will pass it off to Patrick, and I hope you enjoy the webcast.
Thank you, Shanella, for that introduction. So my name is Patrick Voital, and I'll be going through a live demonstration to you today with Power BI. So this is a photo of me. I am Patrick. I have a PhD in chemistry, which I got from Toronto. I moved to Brazil some time ago, and I've been working as a CRM Dynamics developer. So I work with coding, I work with Power BI dashboards, so I do multiple things within the company. So today we are going to be talking about going through the steps of starting from scratch and sharing a dashboard with people in your company, your boss, your coworkers, etc. So first I will show you how to download Power BI Desktop and install it. I will go through connecting to various data sources. Then I'll show you how to use the Power Query Editor to organize your data, model your data, to clean your data. Then after the data has been modeled, I will show you how to create dashboards with different graphs. And then afterwards, I will show you how to publish what you have created to the Power BI service, where from there you can share it with people that you know. Now, some of you may have no idea what Power BI is, but I'm sure most of you have at least heard about it. Because Power BI is very popular nowadays. Many businesses are employing it to build dashboards, to share reports. So as Shanella mentioned, that Power BI is a Microsoft tool that helps you visualize your data in a very interactive way. So you'll be able to build graphs, and you can click on these graphs to gain different insights. You can almost think of Power BI as Excel 2.0. So you'll be using tables to create your graphs, you'll be building dashboards, and you put different dashboards together into a report that are related, and then you can transfer that information to other people. Now, it's very simple to get into. It's also free, which is a big plus to get started. And there's almost an infinite amount of possibilities with how you can build your dashboards. You can be extremely creative with them as well. And then once you've designed your dashboards, you're able to share them with your managers, your bosses, your coworkers. So you can better inform them about how the company is doing with certain aspects, or to help them make better decisions. Now, let's get on to the live demo then. So the first thing that you want to do is you would want to download Power BI. So you can go to any search engine and you can just type in Power BI, let's do desktop. So from here you can see a Power BI website that comes up, the first that there is, and just click on any one of them and you can download for free. So it's as simple as that. Now, there are two types of Power BIs that are mainly used. The first one is a Power BI desktop. So this is the one that you would download here, and that it is a program that you use on your computer. And the other one is Power BI Service. Now, Power BI Service is something that stays online on the web. So on Power BI Desktop, you would use it to connect to data, build your reports. And Power BI Service is something you log in online, where you can upload your dashboards to and then share them with other people. Now, for downloading Power BI, there are two options. You can either download the application from the website here, or you can go through the Microsoft Store. Now, each of them have advantages and disadvantages. Now, when you go through the Microsoft Store, Power BI will automatically be updated for you. Now, Microsoft usually tends to release a new update about once a month with new features, new feedback that they received from people using the program. So about once a month, Power BI will receive an update. And through the Power BI Store, it automatically updates your version. Now, if you download it here, you will have to re-download it every single time that a new version comes out. Now, in some situations, it might actually be advantageous to download it from the website here. Every now and then, a bug might sneak into Power BI, and then suddenly a dashboard that you had prepared for a client, with a new update, suddenly one visual stops working or something didn't work as before. Now, in this case, it's really easy to uninstall. Just reinstall the last version that you had. So sometimes it's a good idea to keep different versions of Power BI, just in case a bug creeps in sometimes, and it's rare that that happens. Microsoft is usually pretty quick with fixing them. Within about a week or two, they'll usually be able to fix the bug, but sometimes that might not be quick enough. So there are some pros and cons between downloading it yourself or having the Power BI, the Microsoft Store, update it for you automatically. Now, once you download the program, you go through the installation, which I won't go through because it's fairly straightforward. When you open Power BI, this will be the first screen that you see. Now, the first step when using Power BI is to get data. So you need some sort of data set to connect to. You need some sort of numbers, some sort of graphs to build from that. So you can get your data by clicking on this Get Data splash that comes up initially. Or later on, if you close this by accident, there's also another Get Data button up here. So you'd always begin by getting new data. Now, when you click this, it first shows you all the different possibilities, all the different databases that you can connect to. So you can connect to Excel, you can connect to SharePoint folders, you can connect to Azure Blob Storage, you can connect to Dynamics, CRM Dynamics here, you can connect to Salesforce, Facebook. So there are many possibilities or many places that you can get your data from. So let me just minimize this pop there. Then they also organize it for you here based on different types. So I think Power BI has over 90 data sets that they support that you can connect to. And even if you have one that you can't find, you can also write code and they let you connect to that customized code as well. Now, for this example, I will connect to a website. So I will, since the 30-year anniversary of the website has just passed, I will do a Google search to find a website that is internet usage per country. So I'm just going to go to a website here, the Wikipedia website, that shows us internet usage per country. So this has a few tables here. It shows us countries, internet users, population, rank, percentage, and then the rank of the percentage, and a few other tables here below. So we can use this as a starting point for our data. So to show how simple it is to connect, I will just copy the address up here, and I will click on a web resource and click connect. So web resource is just connecting to a website. I'm just going to copy and paste the Wikipedia link right here and click OK. Now, if you have an Excel spreadsheet you want to use, you can just navigate through that and connect to that. If you have an SQL database, you can connect to that. If you have a CRM database, you can connect to that as well. So now, the intelligence inside Power BI pulls up all the different things that it thinks are tables within the website. So you can see this first one that it found here, it's nothing too useful. It just has some basic generic information. This other one here has separation by continents, by year. Now this one here is the main table that we saw with a list of countries, internet users, population, etc. This table 3, 4, and 5 don't seem to show anything too interesting. And table 6 here also has some interesting facts as well. So from here, you can select exactly which tables you want to bring in. Now, if you're connecting to a source like CRM Dynamics, you'll generally be bringing in entities. So each entity will be a different table. Now, if you bring in an entity, you have to keep in mind that it's going to bring in every single column, every single field in that entity. So sometimes you may end up with hundreds of columns, and you might only be interested in a few. So it's always good practice that when you bring data in, you pre-select the data or you clean up the data before bringing it into Power BI. Why? Because sometimes your data source may be a couple of hundred megabytes, and that will hurt your performance a lot when using Power BI. It will make it more difficult to make tables. Things will be a lot slower. So you usually want to select only the data that you'll be using. So in our example here, I will pick the 3 graphs or the 3 tables that were interesting. So I'm going to select the 3, and then I'm going to click Edit. Now, when you click Edit, it's going to open up a new window here. So this new window is called Power Query Editor. So it's something that exists within Power BI that helps you to organize your data and clean your data, do modeling, etc. So here we can see the 3 different tables that were brought in. So internet users by region, number of internet users as of 2017, and worldwide internet users. So these 3 were the tables that I brought in. Now, to begin organizing the data and cleaning up the data, we see that the column headers aren't exactly in the right spot. So we want the column headers to be up here, not to be the first row of data, since it's not really data that we're going to use. So what you can do is you can click this button here, use first row as headers. So when you click that button, all of a sudden the proper years go up in the right spot. And now this table here also has this bottom row that doesn't look too interesting. We don't really want to include this in our data set. So what you can do is you can click on Remove Rows and Remove Bottom Rows. So here you can specify how many rows you would like to remove from the bottom. So in our example, we just want to remove this last row because it doesn't contain any data. So I'll put number of rows 1, hit OK, and we remove that row. So we organize the header, we cut off the unnecessary information on the bottom. And the next thing that we notice is that the type of format for these columns. So this A, B, and C here lets us know that this column is in a string format, so in a text format. Now, if you want to do any type of modeling, if you want to use any numbers, set up any ranges, then we can't have this be a text because then it won't calculate the number accordingly. So what you can do is you would click on the column, right-click, and change type. So you can see by default it was set to text, and we want to set it to a percentage. So now this change has been noted. So now we have these numbers represented as percentages, and you can see the percent sign up here. Now, in this Power Query Editor, it's very nice because it keeps track of all the changes that you make. For example, if I made a big mistake and everything disappeared, or I did something wrong, all you have to do is click the X on the last step that you did, and it will undo the change that you did. So for example, I removed that last step from here, and it went back to being a text field. Now for this example, I will just highlight all 3 by using the Control button, change the type, and I will set all 3 to percentage, since they all are. So now this table looks much better. Now we can use this table. Now this table is ready for graphing. Now the next one that we have here is the use country or area, internet users, population, rank, percentage, and another rank. Now the first thing we want to do again is put that first row as the header. So we would do that first. Now it automatically realized that these 2 columns, they went from being a string or a text to a integer. So if I over-click here and I see what type it went, so it went to decimal number. Now for this, I can leave it as decimal number, or I can put it as a whole number. We're looking at the population here, so we shouldn't be using any fractions here. So I made that change, and I'll add it as a new step, so I can always revert it afterwards. So you can see the whole number is 1, 2, 3, or the decimal being 1.2. Now the rank looks okay. It already put it as a whole number. Now this percentage is not really a percentage, it's a text. So what I want to do is I want to change the type again, put it to a percentage. Now if I scroll down here, I'm going to notice that some of the columns gave me errors. So I did a transformation on it and it said it gave me an error. So if you click on the error itself, you can see error. We couldn't convert to number, details, 41.03%, 2012. So this value here, instead of just being a number on the website, it was listed as something with brackets at the end. So if you scroll down, you can see that all of those had something similar. If I go back to the source of the data, I look through here, and I can notice that all of these, the Power BI will not be able to convert them to decimal places. Why? Because we have this extra string attached here. Now, this is something that happens in the real world very often. You'll be importing a column, you want to collect the data, but then suddenly that column has a few exceptions or a few rules. So it's very good practice to first clean up your data, find these things before you start building your data sets, building your graphs, and they give you errors saying that they can't convert all the data. So in this situation, we have a few options. One of the options that we can do is you can just remove the errors. Say, okay, I'm going to be using this column. Since this column doesn't exactly give me what I want, you can just remove that. Or you can replace the values. So there's many types of that you can do. So you can replace the errors or remove. In this case, I'm going to remove the errors. I'll just remove those rows from our data set so we don't have them anymore. Now, if I look at the other rank column here, I will also change the type to be a whole number for a rank. And if I scroll down here, I think there should be a few errors as well. So we had a few errors come up here as well. So those errors came from the fact that some countries did not receive a rank. Maybe the number hasn't been updated recently. So instead of receiving a number, they received a dash. So Power BI couldn't transform this dash into a whole number. So one option that I can do is I can revert the change, and I can first, this is very similar to what you would do in Excel, I can replace values. So I can look for anything that is a dash and replace it with a 0. So if I do that, all the dashes should go to 0. So something very similar you would do in Excel as well. And now I will convert this column into a whole number as well. So now the data set is prepared. So now, after spending a few minutes, this data set has been cleaned up. The columns are in the right formats. The headers make sense. There is no excess trailing rows that we have. So if you're happy with the changes that you've made, you can hit close and apply. If you want to come back here afterwards and make some additional changes, it's always an option as well. But for now, I'm happy with the changes, so I will click close and apply. Now, what Power BI is doing right now, it is bringing in those tables and loading the model into the data set. So now we have these 3 tables that have been loaded in here. You can see the 3 tables that I brought in from that website are here. Now this last one I didn't organize just because I think it's similar to the first one and I'm not going to be using it anyways. So if you have a table that you don't like, you can just right click and say, all right, I won't need you. I can just delete you. I'll be working mainly with this table here. Now this is your main page, your main canvas for building your dashboard. So it's here where you'll be placing your graphs. Now you have 3 tabs here as well. You have your report tab where you'll show your graphs, your visuals. You have a tables tab here. Now here you can click on your tables and see exactly what the data is. And the 3rd tab here is relationships. Now relationships are links between your tables. So sometimes you may have one table with a product ID, another table with that same product, and they contain different information about the same product. So you want those tables to be linked together, meaning that when you're looking at the product from one table, it knows that, okay, the data on the other table is the same product. So this comes into play when you're slicing, when you're filtering, or when you're just creating tables. Now, Power BI is really good at building these relationships for you. When you're loading the data, it looks for columns that have similar names, similar values, and it will make a connection between your 2 tables for you. Sometimes your data set may be extremely complicated. The relationships may be 1 to n or many to 1, 1 to many to many. So sometimes you may need to specify exactly how you want Power BI to treat the relationship between the data. Now, in our case, we don't really have anything to connect. The country or area in this column isn't the same one as here. But if you wanted to bring 2 data sets together in a relationship, you would just click on a column, drag it, and then click on the corresponding column in the other table. So this part here is very, very important for Power BI, how to build relationships. So now that your data has been cleaned, your data has been loaded, the next part is to start creating graphs. So all the graphs that come with Power BI are located in this visualizations window here on the top right corner. So you have things like stacked bar charts, stacked column charts, line graphs, you have maps, pie charts, cards, tables. So there are many, many options here. Now sometimes you might not find exactly what you want for the visuals that you're trying to build. So you can also always go to get more from importing them from the marketplace. So if I click on that, import from the marketplace, or if I click from here, it will bring you a pop-up where you'll have a list of additional visuals that are available for free. So you can download any of these, add them to your list here, and then freely use them. So there are different companies that over time publish charts that are lacking because they don't exist yet out of the box from Power BI, and they just add them here. So you can do cluster maps, calendars. You can also do a search. Let's say I'm looking for a calendar. It doesn't exist, so you can just click add, and then it will bring that visual into your list as well. Now, when you're building a visual, all you have to do is click on the type of graph that you want to put. So in our case, I will build a stacked bar chart. Now, when you click here, it shows you the empty visual on your canvas or on your dashboard. And on this side here, we have the different columns that you will be populating here. So we have one for your axis, which will be on this axis here in this case. You have one for the legend, which organizes your data. Then you have one for the value and tooltips. Tooltips, when you mouse over something, it will show you information. Now, in this example, I will set my axis as my country. And I will set my values as percentage. So we'll see what percentage of the country uses the internet in this example. Now, everything is one color because I haven't populated the legend yet. So if I drag country or area into the legend, then each country will receive its own unique color. So but just by looking at this chart, we have a percentage here going from 0 to 100%. So a country like Iceland, they have 98% of the population using the internet. It's a very, very, very high number. Norway as well. So if we scroll down, we can see Canada here. Canada has 90% of people with internet usage. That means 10% of people are still without internet. So as you scroll down here, we can see all the different countries that were included into that list. So very simply, we just made a chart just by dragging in two different columns into the axis here. Now, when you want to customize this visual itself, you can do many things. So you can apply filters to it, or if you want to customize it on a deeper level, then you would click on this panel right here. So formatting with the visual selected. Now here it gives you options such as the position, the height, the width. You can also just manually change the size as well. As you drag things along, you make it larger or smaller, then they scale accordingly as well, which is a nice feature. So if I select my graph again, I go back here, you can control things like the legend. Oh, I don't want to display the legend. You can turn that off. That's fine. You can control your y-axis, your x-axis, your data colors for each different country. So there are many, many customizations you can do here to get your graph to look exactly the way that you want it. Now, as another example, I will create a pie chart. So just by clicking on the pie chart button, the pie chart appears here at the bottom. Now for this one, I want to look at how many internet users the country has. So I'll plug that into the value. So if I mouse over it, it will show me that there are 3.7 billion internet users worldwide. So that's great to know, but I want to split it up by country. So to split it up per country, I would put in the country or area into the legends column right here. And all of a sudden it will show me, okay, so in China we have 750 million internet users. Then India is second place, Brazil is third, etc. So now we have a pie graph representation of internet users per country. So now we can also build a graph in another way. For example, if I just grab the column of the country and I drag it onto the canvas itself, then Power BI knows that I'm dropping a list of countries and it automatically uses its intelligence to show a map for me. So right now it just shows a data point for each of the different countries located. So this is very nice, but I want to make this a bit more interesting. So I want to see the size of each ball be how many internet users that country has. So I would just grab the column again, drag it onto the size. So you can see that country that has more internet users like China, India, the United States of America, they receive bigger balls. And I also, or bigger bubbles. And I also want to see what different colors look like. So once again, I would drag the country or area into the Legends tab. And now we have the same coloring scheme on the world map as we do for the bar chart and for the pie graph. Now, a more traditional way of viewing data is also just to use a table. So I can click on this table button here, and I can just start dragging columns on top of the table, and it will automatically be populated like that. So you can see how very quickly you can start building these different visuals, building your different graphs, and going from there. Now, one cool thing about these graphs is that they're all interactive. So that means every data point that you see here, you can click, and there will be an effect on the other graphs. For example, if I click on this internet users bubble for China, you can see that on this graph that the China one gets highlighted and all the other ones become a little dimmer. And then same with the other visuals as well. So here it automatically highlights China for you, selects China here as well. Even on this one, China's a little bit lower on the list. So you can see how these graphs are extremely interactive. If you want to hold Control and click on a second, so you select two at a time, you can do that as well. So you can start to see how these graphs, they become very interactive by letting you click and making different selections as well. Now, one very powerful tool in Power BI is to use slicers. So a slicer is this option from the Visuals tab right here. So you would click on this option and drag whatever you want to slice by. So in our situation, we will be slicing by the country. So what I can do here is I can just click on the country here, and all of a sudden it will just get a piece of my data. So it will slice my data to only look at Angola for this example. Or if I unclick it, then it will go back to everything. So in one case, when I was clicking on a country here, we were doing highlighting and shading. Whereas if I click on countries here, if I click on Brazil, then it will only show me Brazil. Or I can control click to see other countries as well. If I want to see Brazil and Canada, then it shows me those two. So you can see how quickly you can have access to various data sets or information just from one dashboard itself. Now, slicers are mainly used when you want to separate your data. For example, if you have sales per year, and you'll have your months listed here. So I want to see January sales only. You would click January. And then all of your visuals will update to show only your January sales. Or I want to see February. You click February, and you will only see your sales figures for February. Or sometimes you might have stores in different locations. You'll have Eastern Canada, Western Canada, Central Canada. So you would click on Eastern, and you'll only see the data for Eastern Canada, sales, revenue, etc. So these filters here are extremely powerful for having a lot of data at the tip of your fingers. Now, when you are building your visuals, you will often need to supplement your data with additional calculations. So it's very, very rare that the data that comes out of a data set you can just directly put onto the graphs themselves. A lot of the time, you'll have to do transformation to the data, modeling to the data to get exactly what you want to get. Sometimes when I work on building visuals, I will spend maybe 80% of my time modeling the data, building conditions to see exactly what the client wants to see, and I'll spend maybe 20% of my time building the actual dashboard. So the majority of the work sometimes happens on the modeling side of things. Now, when you start modeling, which is just doing calculations, you have two main types of modelings that you will be doing. So one of them is called a measure, and one of them is called a column, or a calculated column. Now, I know when people start working with Power BI, this is going to cause a lot of confusion, because you will do a measure, and suddenly you can't use that measure in this situation. Or you'll do a calculated column, and it say, no, you can't use this calculated column here. So I'll go through the differences since we have time right now. So a calculated column, or a new column, is basically just adding another column to your data set here. So it will do a calculation for every single row that you have, and you will get as many results as you have rows. So if you wanted to create a new column, you would just right-click on the table that you have, or click here, and you would select New Column. Now you come up with a expression window here where you can write your expression that you want for this column. Now, the language that Power BI uses is almost identical to the language that Excel uses. So they both use DAX. There are some slight differences which takes a little bit of time to get used to, but if you're able to do if conditions or sums or averages in Excel, then you shouldn't have any problems at all in Power BI. In fact, Power BI has the same as Excel and even more. Now, if I want to just do a very simple example, let's say that I don't want to see this column here as a whole number. I want to see instead the amount in millions. Why? Because this number is very, very hard to read. I don't really know if it's 750 million or 75 million. So I want to just write this number in terms of a million. So the first thing that you would do is you would write the name of the column. So in this example, I will call it population in million. All right. I have a typo here that doesn't look right. There you go. So population in million. Now, when you want to reference another column in Power BI, you would first start with a single open bracket. Now, when you type in the single bracket, it will show you already the name of the table. So the name of the table that I want to use is called this, the number of internet users as of 2017. So that's this table here. All you have to do is select this, hit enter, or you can type it yourself. And when you want to reference a specific column within the table, you reference it using square brackets. Okay, so single quotes is to reference the table, square brackets is to reference the actual column itself. Now in this example here, I want to reference internet users. So I'll select that, hit OK, and I want to divide this by 1,000,000. All right, that looks good. So then you would put in the expression, hit enter, and all of a sudden I have my population of internet users per million. That's also important to give your columns meaningful names, because as your data sets grow, things grow in complexity, it's always good to be able to properly keep track of what your calculations are. So now we have 750 million for China, 640 million for India. It's awesome, perfect. Now, when you go back to your dashboard here, you can see that this column now has been added into the table, and it receives a symbol like this, showing you that it's a calculated column. So to reiterate, we made a column that calculates that value or calculates that expression for every single row that you have. Now, a measure, on the other hand, is also a calculation, except a measure returns one value. Now, this is a very big difference, because sometimes you'll be writing a condition for another expression, you have an if, and you'll only be able to compare it to one value. So sometimes a measure will be exactly what you need. So now to create a measure, it'll be the same way. You would right click on the table and you would select new measure. And once again, you will have the expression window come up here. So you see measure one. If you need more space, you can always click on the arrow here to expand it. Now for this one, I want to do something very simple. Let's just do something like average population. So this will be identical to how you do it in Excel. So you just type in average around with brackets, and now we're going to be referencing a table and a column. So the Power BI Intelligence already gives you all the possibilities that you have in your list. So I want to select this table again, and I want to use my internet users again. And we finish the expression just by closing off the bracket and hitting enter. So now we have the calculated column, and now we have the measure as well. So you can see that the symbol is a little different. This one is a calculator, and this one is a square with a sum symbol in the middle. Now, a lot of the times when you have a measure, you want to display it on your graph. So the most common way to do that is by using a card. So card is just displaying that value and the name of the column if you would like. So I'm going to click the card button to create the visual, and I'm just going to drag that calculation that we did right onto the card. So now this card is showing me that the average internet users per country in the world is 20 million people. Now what's really cool about this card is that, like everything else, it will update dynamically. So for example, if I only want to see data in South America, I would click on a country here, and you can see that this number now gives me the average population only within Chile. Now, if I want to see other countries in South America, so I'm holding control and clicking on the different countries, So I have 4 countries included in my list, and you can see that all the visuals are properly updating. So now amongst these 4 countries, now my average population that uses the internet is 12.1 million. So you can slowly get to see an idea of, from this simple visual that I built within half an hour going from a data set, you can build very, very powerful dashboards to share with people. So there are almost an infinite amount of possibilities. If you want to have some ideas about how nice and how professional these dashboards can look, all you have to do is do a Google search of Power BI dashboards, and you'll see some of the amazing work that people have put together. Now, depending on your needs, on what you're trying to show, you can be as creative as you want with these dashboards. Some dashboards don't even look like dashboards, but they have the relevant information for what they need. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention is that this data set that I have here is a dynamic data set. So that means that when there are changes in the source, then all I have to do is click this refresh button, and my data set here will be automatically updated. This is a very, very cool feature. You don't have to go and repoint at the data set. You don't have to bring it in again. It is automatically done for you. So sometimes a company may have a screen showing their sales in their main office. And that afternoon, you can already see your sales from that morning because this Power BI dashboard, the data is updated automatically. So as data comes in, the dashboards display that data in real time. So that's a very, very cool feature that you have. So now that your dashboard is ready, the next thing that you want to do is you want to share it with other people. So you want to show it to your boss, show it to your coworkers. So that is very simple to do. One option is you can save the file, send it to them, but the other way, it's much nicer. So you would go to File, Publish, and you would say Publish to Power BI. So what we're doing here now is we are getting our dashboard from our computer, and we're putting it onto the Power BI service. So that is the internet-based or web-based application that they have. So you would just click Publish to Power BI service. First, you would need to save your changes. So I will save my folder, my file here. And now it's going to start uploading it to the Power BI service. First, you need to select also where it is you want to put it. Now, as you sign up for Power BI, you are given Power BI service already. All you have to do is log in. You're able to download Power BI desktop. The only limitation, I think, is that I think you need a business account to be using it. I don't think you can just use it with a regular Gmail or Hotmail or Yahoo account. So now that it has been successfully published, I can go to my Power BI service here. You can just type in Power BI service, do your login. I've already saved you that time by logging in already. Now, if I go to my workspace, then I think I would need to refresh this page to see the latest dashboard that came up. So let me just do a refresh here. Now, once you have it in here, there it is. So internet usage, now it came up. So it just took a little bit of time to update. So now that dashboard that I built on the desktop is now available here on the Power BI service. Now, from here, what you can do is you can refresh it. That means that any changes you make on the desktop will be updated here. Once you publish it, you can also edit the report. So editing the report will have the similar windows pop up where you can make last-minute detailed changes. I want to add another graph. I want to do this. I want to do that. So it also publishes the data sets. The different tables that I brought were brought into here. The report that I made was brought into here. Now, to share this dashboard, it's as simple as just, let me save this. All right. Now, to share, there will be a button here that, okay, publish and saved. So I think I can't get to it from the edit window, so I'll just refresh this one more time and reopen it. So I will now navigate to the report that is here, and then there is a button here that is share. So if you click on this button, share, then you'll get a window popping up that allows you to input different email addresses. Now, if you're trying to share and you have a free version, I believe that you can only share within people from the same company. So I can send, so for example, for me, I can only send this to people with CRMD Dynamics emails. If you buy the pro version, then you're able to share it with anybody that you would please. So all you do is you enter the email addresses here, you can include a message, and then the link that they would open is this one here. So they follow the link, and then they'll be able to open the dashboard. So I think that does it for this presentation. Let me just open up the slide again.